Hi. Um, it's a quick video just to brag a little bit about something that I got working today with the help of some awesome developers on different projects and NPM packages and all kinds of awesome stuff. So, what we got working today is based on Jan Schwan, I think. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Vite plugin auto import. So she, not sure, sorry, they recently updated their auto importer so that you can now detect and import components and modules for SvelteKit projects without the requirement of adding import like statements to the top of your files. Generally, maybe that's not preferred, right? You may want to do that at the top. Like this is not a good example, but at the top of like a content file, um, or a Svelte file, you may want to be explicit about the imports. That's fine. That still works. But the use case that I got working today that I'm pretty happy about is combining that capability with MDsveX. So in this case, in my source, I have some routes. Some of these routes are Markdown files, many of them actually in this example. And in the case of these Markdown files now, I can use my Svelte components in the Markdown without adding the script tag at the top and all of the imports for all the different components. It will find and detect the components that I'm using and then just import those automatically. Add the automatic import to this component and then pull that component into the higher level component on up until the page is built. So as an example here, here's news post 1. You can see I have a math expression here. I have a little bit of inline math. I've got an embed here with a YouTube embed. I've got a figure embed, right, on this layout. So I'm combining sort of a blocks-based approach page layout system. So in this case, I have a page section for sidebar content that I have making it full width without a right rail and with a table of contents. So this is a component I made called sidebar content that lets me then insert the body, my markdown body, into a slot in the component. So if I take a look at lib components sidebar content, you'll see I've got some stuff here with date handling, exporting some variables, doing some formatting here, some on-mount stuff for table of content building. And then you can see here, yeah, there's a bunch going on in here, but fundamentally, this gets called and the markdown gets passed in into the slot. So let me go back up. It actually gets passed in right here. And then here's my aside for my table of contents and my dynamic right rail and stuff. So, and in this slot, the way I'm handling this is using MDsveX. I have a blocks layout. And in the blocks layout, I import all of the components that are available for the design system. I make a little array of blocks where I'm using my reference strings and pairing those with each component so that in a particular file, like I'll keep this one up, like in post 1, let's say. So what the blocks will do is when it hits, basically it's building the layout for each page sections. I have a section and it checks the field group variable, looking for sidebar content in this case, because I do want to pass in for that specific component, I want to pass a slot. If I have other components that are similar to this that also have a slot, I can do that or make variations. For everything else that's not sidebar component, I'm using the Svelte component entity. And then for this, I'm doing a lookup from the section field group, comparing it to the reference variable or the reference parameter in the object here, and then figuring out what component that is, Rich here, and then using that and assigning that to this for the component. So this kind of dynamically assigns a component and renders it in this loop. And then for each one of these components, I end up exporting a variable called data, and then I'm just binding to that data and passing it the section from this loop, right? And the section is coming from the code. So for every page section, I get a little chunk like this, and it just hands that in as data to the component. And then in the component, I can take that data. I know what variables should be in there per component. So I just go grab those out of that data, and then based on its type, based on its field group. So some of these like features, for example, here I have a little section heading that's just got some top text, a title, and a subtitle variable for heading centered. For this feature, for media features, I've got like an image, a V for video, some text here, call to action text for clickable buttons, and a call to action URL, positioning for left or right positioning. And then in the site, if I go to features, you see something like this. So for every one of those, for each one of these features, feature 2 and feature 1, I get, the features, header, centered, and then the media changing alignments with different buttons. This one, if V is defined, then it'll use the video, or else it'll fall back to an image that's assigned. If neither are assigned, then it's just text. So you can do some pretty dynamic stuff with these, essentially using front matter in your Markdown as kind of little data objects that you can use to drive the component rendering. So, and now what's so great about the setup is, again, I can use that auto importer, and I don't have to figure out, oh, in this one I have math, I have video, I have a figure. In the next one I might have a button, I might have, so down in the content, these almost now just act like really super easy to use shortcodes. And to make it even easier, so one more bonus to this, I'm now using front matter as a CMS for this particular project. It's not defined in this particular setup. I have it on the main site. This is just kind of a theme, like a test environment for a theme. But on the main site, I've defined for each block, for each one of these components, I've defined the data structure, the data object for the front matter. So then in the left sidebar, when I'm editing a post, for example, for each one of these, well, for snippets, there's actually a snippets capability where you can define a little UI to specify these variables that get filled in, and like the status of these things. So that's for snippets inline stuff like video. I can have a variable for just putting in the V variable. For the figure, I have title, caption, image, and you can fill in those blanks, and then it'll write the snippet like this. And then for this front matter stuff at the top, it's not showing here, but you would get UI elements where you can add an array of these page sections into a little array block over here. And then each one has its own unique set of variables and UI for the kind of fields that you can pass into that. So it makes it super easy to just add a new section, pick the section type, like if it's sidebar or if it's main centered heading or media feature, whatever, pick those, add it to the array, and then edit that item in the array. It'll show you all of the correct inputs. You fill them all out, save that. It'll add it, to front matter, another block, and then that ends up rendering out on the page. So that's really cool. I'm pretty happy about that. It's kind of what I've been working for a little bit, is to get this all to work together. And just recently, as of like this morning, in version 1.6.3 of this auto import, it now works as a preprocessor module. So before it was like a plugin here, but you can also now use it as a preprocessor, and this is brand new. This works so good. So you can now use it with MDsveX. You can auto import the components inside of your Markdown and treat them like really easy to use shortcodes without all the import boilerplate at the top. So it's making it even easier for my editors to work in. So anyway, it's a little 10-minute talk here, but I just wanted to share that. I think it's so cool. I'm so happy that is working now, and really looking forward to fleshing this all out and getting it out to my editors for our new website that we're redesigning right now. So on SvelteKit using MDsveX and all the bells and whistles here. And by the way, I'm in a Gitpod environment here. That's another benefit you should look into if you haven't. But by specifying Gitpod YAML, I can set up the host environment, load any VS Code extensions I want, and automatically run a live preview in my browser of my site. So I can do all my editing online. All of the environment is set up correctly. Everything that I need installed is installed in this specific environment. and it's great. I can switch to different environments, different projects, super easy. I don't have to do anything locally. I don't have any VS Code local Git. All my authentication, I don't have to worry about any of that junk. I just switch to the right account in Gitpod when I open up that particular project, and then I'm just logged into the right with the right account to that specific project, and I get everything correct, like VS Code, but more portable. So anyway, there's a little bonus tip. If you haven't used it yet, I really recommend looking into this for Gitpod. It's made development and shared development really super easy in our project. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment on this video, or you can reach out to me by email. I'm pretty easy to find. So anyway, there you go. Take care.